not to sound like a late night show, but would you want to teach us a little bit of something about beer? I know that we all have beers in front of us. Blake is the biggest beer fan of our group, and he actually has a beautiful looking flight for
I love it.
Yeah, so we're hoping you can talk to us a little bit about glassware appearance and aroma and taste.
Yeah. And by the way, Noah and I are using the same glass.
That's true. Which we're repping the glass that we actually got at our last podcast with Whiskey Rebellion for our season 2 debut.
Nice. So glassware. The first thing you should do if you're tasting a beer is you've got to put it in a glass. Like if you're just hanging out with your mates or you're at a barbecue, feel free to drink it out of the bottle, drink it out of the can. But if you want to taste your beer, you got to put it in a glass. It's going to open it up more for you. You're going to be able to see it because we taste with our eyes as well. Like all of our senses are involved in this. So you've got to use a glass. If you're just starting out, any glass will do. I am that person that will be somewhere and go, can I have a wine glass? And I'll put my beer in it.
Why a wine glass?
So a wine glass is great because it's got that lovely rounded shape, and that helps to open up the flavours and the aromas. And they're usually shaped so that they capture the aromas as well and funnel them up to your nose. So what we think of as flavour is actually aroma and taste combined, which I'll talk about when we get there. But so you need that aroma. There's also a big debate going on in the UK at the minute. Driving me mad. There's a whole thing about the amount of head on your beer. I don't think
that's something
in the US.
I've seen in the US as well.
Yeah. Oh, you have got it as well? So there's this thing where people are like, I want to top up. Because if they think they've got too much head, they're not getting enough beer for their money.
Right.
That head is there on purpose. Like it is there to capture those aromas, and that builds that flavour for you. Like, I get very upset when people are like, it's too much head. Like, no, that's part of your beer. Like it's there. It's supposed to be there. It's helping you to be able to taste what the brewer wanted you to taste. So any glass will do. I know in America, I haven't got one here. So one of the glasses that you guys use a lot is the shaker pint, which is straight-sided.
Yep.
I'm not a fan of shaker pints. If it's what you've got, use it. But I prefer a glass that's got a bit of a shape to it, again, because it'll open up your aromas and flavours. I personally, like if you're going to get yourself a beer glass, get yourself a Teku. They're a lovely kind of bold shape. They've got a stem. Not only does that make you feel proper fancy because you're drinking out of stem glass,
which I'm all about.
Right? Yes. You want to be fancy while you're drinking your beer, especially if you've got like something really nice and wild. Like you want that in a proper fancy glass. But stems are great. I love stemmed glassware because the heat of your hand is not on the beer; it's on the stem.
Oh yeah.
So if you've got a beer, like you're having a really lovely hazy IPA or something like that, you don't want to be warming it up too quickly. You want that to be cooler. So I love a stem because you can do that. I mean, you can use a tumbler as well. These little Allegra glasses are similar to the shape that you guys have got. Like they're stemless. Breweries love this sort of shape at the minute. I think it's because they stack really well. Yeah, I think it's easier to wash. Like they don't break. Like so they're quite. It's fine. It's not my favourite, but they're a curved shape, so they're going to open up those aromas. Where it curves in at the top, that's capturing the aroma as well, which is great. Okay. If you are a stouts, dark beers, imperial stouts fan, you must get yourself a snifter. That is one of those like brandy glasses, like the really curved ones. That you can get your beer in it. You can give it a good swirl round. That's going to open up all of those amazing aromas and flavours. So have a look at what your favourite beer style is. Invest in a glass that goes with that because there's different ones that go with all the different styles. Don't look at Belgian beers because they've all got their own proprietary one. Like there are bars in Belgium that won't serve you a beer if they've run out of the glass that goes with it because they're so specific about having the right glassware. Like the Belgians are a class of their own over there.
Yeah, maybe they're born with the Cicerone certificate.
No, because if you start talking to them about beer styles, they're like, "What's a beer style? I'm just going to brew a beer that I like." Like they are a completely different class of their own over in Belgium, but they can be because they make amazing beer. So, what are you going to do? Get a glass, any glass. My particular favourite at the minute is actually a little tasting glass that I got from a beer festival over here. Stemmed, it's curved, it's a nice kind of shape. Make sure you've got a glass. And as I said before, rinsing it in cold water first, it's going to bring the temperature of the glass down. It's going to help with the surface tension on the glass as well with the beer, making sure it pours nicely. And it's going to clean out if you've got any dust or anything left in there. I know over in the US you have like lots of places do like frozen mugs. Ooh. Yeah. If I see that,
I have all of my beer mugs, or not mugs, but my glasses in the freezer. Is that a no-no?
Do you? Yeah, that's a big no-no.
No.
I feel like it makes it colder.
Well, yeah, so that's the problem. So you want your beer cold, but you don't want it so cold that you can't taste it. So that temperature, it works on your tongue and it works on the beer, and it stops the what you want being like the volatile compounds from being released. So you're not going to taste what the brewer is expecting you to taste. You're not going to smell what they're expecting you to smell because it's still locked in the beer, and it's dulling your senses in your mouth. So frozen mugs are terrible. If it's in a beer bar as well, when they clean it and then put it in the freezer, like sanitation chemicals could be caught in there. Like anything could be frozen in with that, so you don't want that. That's a big no-no.
Yes. Like,
I mean, again, do what you want to do, everybody. It's up to you. But these are my.
I'm taking mine out as soon as I stop recording.
like we got an American bar chain that commercializes their beer at 26 degrees. That like the mugs are ice cold, and I remember I had an IPA one time. I said, "This tastes awful." I mean, it was a truth, and truth is like one of Cincinnati's prime beers, and it was just so bad. It's like I've never had a truth that bad.
Yeah. And I mean, that's why Budweiser light lagers are served so cold, because they don't taste anything. So they can be really cold.
Because I had one of the macro beers that cold, and I was like, oh, this tastes better.
Yeah. Because then it's just really cold and refreshing.
Well, maybe that's why they say like Busch should be like ice cold, and then
100%. 100%.
That's so interesting. I had no idea. Yeah. I'm so glad we're talking to you.
Yeah. So and then with a darker beer, you want that to be slightly warmer than a paler beer, because there's just more complex flavors in it generally from all the different malts that are used in it. So yeah. Temperature is another whole thing. Like there's some topics we're having here which we could have that entire podcast episodes on.
Doesn't Ireland isn't it like the proper way is to serve Guinness at like close to room temp?
Yeah. So you guys have heard that we drink warm beer in the UK, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
I was flying. So came over to Portland and Yakima for the hop harvest back in September. As I'm flying home, I'm sat next to American guy. Hears that I'm English, and he's like, "Yeah, so you guys drink warm beer, right?" And I'm like, right.
It's the first thing he says.
Literally the first thing he said to me. You guys drink warm beer, right? And I was like, okay, right, let's get into this topic. So,
but you Dukes up.
When we say warm beer, what you're referring to is our cask beer. So that is, it's not actually warm. It's kept at cellar temperature. Which is between 8 and 10 degrees. It should be about 10 degrees Celsius. So yes, your craft beers in your craft beer bars are probably being served at 3 degrees Celsius, because that's the kind of beers that they are. Cask beer is fermented in the cask, in the barrel. So the yeast needs that temperature to be able to work, and it's actually not warm. Like 10 degrees isn't actually warm. It's just warmer than your 3 degree craft beer. So people think it's warm and it's not. And I've had American friends over and given them cask beer and they're like, well, this isn't warm at all. Where does that come from? And I was like, it's because it's cellar temperature, like it's different. Because the yeast is in the beer and it is still actively working away and doing what it has to do. Like cask beer is a whole art of itself. There are places in the US that do cask beer, and it's a whole different art form. Like completely different. You have like the beer has to get to the pub and then they have to rack it and it has to be it's called stillage, like it has to be sat and left, and then the brewer the pub owner is testing to see whether it's at the right carbonation level to be served, and then it's drawn through a pump by gravity, or rather than like it's the carbonation is not added, that carbonation comes from the yeast. So it's very interesting type of beer. If you get to try some, do, because
just so our audience can hear it. There's a cask ale tap room in Lexington, Ohio, which is close to where I used to live in Mansfield, called Laxton Hollow. And they are at one point, at least they were one of 12 cask breweries. So I feel like the state of Ohio is lucky to have one.